Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the cottage. So I am working on making this house cozy and inviting, which is something most people do as the weather really starts to get colder. You're really focused more on being inside and making inside a place that you really want to be. So I'm gonna be sharing with you guys a few different ways that I really like to make my house cozy. And by cozy, I mean warm, inviting, and a place that you really wanna just settle in and spend more time. The first way I like to make my home a little cozier, especially as the weather is starting to turn outside and we start seeing cold temperatures, is to switch to flannel sheets. This is actually the first time I have successfully done this. I've always wanted flannel sheets for the winter time, but I've just never made the purchase. I'm the kind of person that if I buy sheets, I want to buy good sheets that are going to last, that I can use over and over and over and over. I just don't want to buy ones I'm gonna have to replace every year. So for that reason, I've just never gone for it. But this year, when we moved, we actually were really in desperate need of a new pair of sheets. The ones that we had for years, and we just kind of wore them down and it was time. So I ended up getting a new pair of sheets and a duvet cover, and I'll link the ones that I got down below. They are so amazing. They're so warm and comfy. If you don't live in a place that gets cold, you might not like these because they are truly flannel. They are so warm, they are thick. Actually, the very first night that I slept in our bed with these new sheets, it took me a minute to get used to, and then by the second night I was sold, and I literally cannot wait to crawl into bed at the end of the day and just cozy up with these amazing sheets. They have really good reviews and they're definitely a little bit more of an investment, but again, I like to invest in good bedding made from quality materials that I know is going to hold up through many, many washes over many years. Another way you can make your home super, super cozy is to bake some bread. So you guys know I love sourdough, and I've been a fan of sourdough baking for years now. You don't have to do sourdough though. Don't count yourself out if you don't have a sourdough starter or you're intimidated by it or you could care less about starting one. You can totally just bake yeast breads, and it's going to give you that warm, cozy, delicious bread baking smell throughout your house. And that smell alone is so inviting, and it just makes you want to be in the kitchen around it, but also actually eating fresh baked bread with some butter on it or whatever else you like is just, I can't think of anything more comforting. And I recently tried my hand at adding inclusions to my sourdough loaf. I will link the exact recipe I used down below. Spoiler, it did not turn out super well, which is okay. Normally, I feel like I've kind of gotten the sourdough loaf down at this point, but I've never done inclusions, and for whatever reason, it did not turn out. I think it's because when I added cranberries and orange zest and rosemary and cinnamon and brown sugar, and it had all the just makings of the season. I was like, this is going to be the most delicious sourdough loaf I've ever made. But I think when I added in the cranberries, it was just too wet, and it ended up being by the time I had stretched and folded and added everything in, the dough was very wet to the point where I was like, this is not what I'm used to feeling. This is probably not going to turn out super well. And I was right. It tasted delicious. The flavors were insane, but it just turned out really, unfortunately, very dense. But I kind of want to give it another try, but do it with dried cranberries instead. I feel like that will probably turn out much better. But we still, we sliced it up that day and we still enjoyed it while it was warm, and it was still tasty. It was just very flat and it didn't rise, which at this point I feel like I figured out sourdough to the point where I don't typically see that issue anymore. But again, this is my first time trying inclusions, and I've made other sourdough stuff in this house, so I was like, maybe it's the kitchen temperature, but I really think it was just too wet of a dough by the time all was said and done. So we just ended up tossing the rest of the chickens and they were very, very happy to have it. But I I'm kind of glad it turned out this way, because I wanted to show you guys that you don't have to be perfect. It doesn't always have to come out perfectly every time. You don't have to put so much pressure on it. You know, we still enjoyed it. It still was fun. I enjoyed the process of making it. But it was, you know, it didn't turn out exactly how I hoped, but that's okay. And honestly, the process of making bread, especially because you have to do a lot of the sourdough at night, when my kids are asleep, all I want to do is like flop on the couch and do nothing. But when you actually like put your hand to something, and I just did it in the quiet downstairs in like a dimly lit kitchen, it actually was so restful and rejuvenating, and it's just, you know, it really makes me like want to be in my kitchen. So can't recommend baking some fresh bread, whether you just do yeast or sourdough or whatever you please. It's going to make your house just a place you really want to be. The next way I really make my home cozy and inviting is through diffusing. Smells are such a big part of our life, and how we kind of view and experience what's around us. And I love to diffuse for that reason. There are so many good oils this time of year that you can make your home smell really warm and spicy, and like, you know, all of like the vanilla and the cinnamon bark and the thieves and the lemon, and you mix them all together and it just smells delectable. And I absolutely love oils for that reason. I love that I can mix and match them and kind of go with my mood and just kind of cook up whatever I want to put in my diffuser, and it's really very fun. And it of course smells amazing. But I will say also, I do love, I mean, who doesn't love the flicker of a candle? I totally get if you're having a hard time giving up candles with, you know, a diffuser instead, or as a replacement. I totally get it. Now you can, what I do is I use just 100% beeswax candles. It's just straight up beeswax. It's nothing else added. And I will burn those when I want that little bit of candle flicker action, because it just totally like sets the mood. And it's just the most like cozy, warm, and inviting thing that you could have in your house, in my opinion. I feel like they do have, you know, candles nowadays that aren't full of toxic fragrance and like toxic paraffin wax, and there's better ones out there. But I don't diffuse just for the smell. I diffuse for the benefits, which is why I use specifically the oils that I use, because it's more than just smell. There's a lot that they can offer our bodies as well. So for me, this is like the best of both worlds. I get the like amazing smells in my house, but that actually carry like therapeutic benefits, and I can still have the candle flicker and that just coziness when I want it. Another way I love to make my home cozy is through music. There is such power in a little bit of background music playing when you are just bopping around your house, going about your day. It always amazes me when I turn it on just how much it really adds, even though it's such a little thing. And we do have a couple of really nice speakers, like Sonos speakers, that of course I have not been able to like successfully set up since we moved. I don't know why, but I've just been playing music right on my phone. I absolutely love, of course right now we're listening to a lot of Christmas music. I love the like Christmas classics playlist on Spotify. I also really like the their dinner party playlist. There's like a feel good one and a dinner party with friends playlist. Any of those are so good, and just having those playing softly in the background will make such a difference in your day. And again, it really makes your house a place that you want to be. Another thing I feel like makes my house very cozy is having a crock pot meal going. There's something about just having that crock pot and the, you know, like the smells filling up your house, just kind of simmering on the counter. I just find that to be very inviting. And, you know, for this crock pot meal, I made, it's my like hearty sausage, kale, potato soup that I do have linked on my blog. I actually didn't have kale when I made this, so I just left the kale out, which I don't recommend because the kale really adds a lot to it, I think. But it's not just like the, you know, the hot meal cooking and the smells filling your house. To me, it is actually more the time that it frees up later in the day, when we tend to be the most tired, when it tends to be already dark out, when we might just not have the energy to cook a whole meal. it is so nice to have it done earlier in the day and in that time where it's getting dark out and you just kind of want to cozy up and relax and put your feet up. Maybe read books to your kids or just sit down and, just do something that's relaxing. Maybe it's knitting, maybe it's reading, whatever that is for you. When you get the meal done earlier in the day, it frees up that time in the end of the day, which just allows you to fill it with things that make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Now, if you look up online ways to make your house cozy, typically you're going to come across things that you're going to add to your house, like a lot of the things that I just mentioned, but also you'll find a lot of like decor tips to make your home cozy. But I kind of want to challenge you guys to think about maybe instead of adding things to your house, maybe you actually need to take things out and have less. Ever since we've made this move, we majorly downsized. Our house is less than half the size of our old house, and I absolutely love it because we just have less stuff and it's less to manage, it's less to tidy and clean. And I shared this on Instagram, but we actually got rid of about 90% of our kids' toys, which was not done purposely. I just realized when I packed them all up a couple weeks before we left home, it actually made a huge difference in my kids. They became so much more creative. They played so much better and for like longer stretches together. And we really didn't miss them. Like we really didn't once we got over that initial hump of like not having them. So when we moved, we just barely unpacked any. And it's just been so nice to have so much less stuff to clean up, but you can really apply this to any part of your home. I'm not a minimalist by any, stretches of the imagination. And I'm really excited to continue to decorate and add layers to this home. But keeping in mind, like the more you have to manage. So if your home is not really a place that you love to dwell in and settle into and feel cozy and invited, you might just have too much stuff and the clutter might be getting to you. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video and maybe you picked up a new tip, a way to make your home a little bit cozier as we enter into the holiday and the winter season. Thank you guys so much for watching this video and please subscribe if you haven't already. You can also comment down below and let me know what kind of videos you'd like to see next. But that is all I have for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching and I'll see you later. Bye.